Hello, everyone, and welcome to the San Jose, California real estate market summary for January of 2023. This is when we just take a few minutes out of the day to take a look at what the data is for the month, and we compare it to past months. We compare it to the same time last year so we can get a better feeling for where we are and maybe even figure out where we might be going with our current real estate market. So let's go ahead and jump into it here. We're going to start with active listings as we usually do. This is the homes that are on the market. So if you're a buyer, this is the total number of homes you have to choose from. If you're a seller, these are the homes that you're competing with. So it's an idea of, how big is the market right now, whether you're competing in it or you're buying from it. We had a 37% increase in the total number of homes on the market in San Jose in January of 2023 compared to the same time last year. So a pretty substantial increase. And as we look at this chart, just to sort of give you the lay of the land on how this works, on the right-hand side, you're going to see January of 2023 directly next to January of 2022. I've marked the January of 2022 column in red so that you know that that is from a year ago. But I wanted you to be able to visually see the comparison between those 2 months right next to each other. And then, of course, all the way over to the left, you can see January of 2022 is also included in the past data. So there's two things you're getting out of this. You're getting the year over year change, and you're also getting the change over time in terms of being able to see a trend month over month. So hopefully that's useful for you. And it's also a great way to make some insinuations or some assumptions, maybe. I hate using that word because that implies a lot of inaccuracy. But we can use this as a way to try to look into the crystal ball a little bit and see where we're going to be going in the months that are coming up here in 2023. The trend here is not difficult to figure out. There's not a lot of fluctuation here. From December of 2021 up to July of 2022, we saw the total number of active listings increase to 1,113, which is very normal. And even if we discount all the other weird things that are going on with interest rates and those types of things, just from a seasonal standpoint, this is all fairly typical. We tend to see our inventory drop in November, December, and then we see a little bit of an uptick in January, simply because folks don't want to sell their homes in winter. They don't want to be dealing with Thanksgiving and Christmas showings, those types of things. What's interesting, though, is the change between December of 2022 and January of 2023 is much more mild. We did see a little bit of an increase to the tune of 7 more homes than the previous month. But if we look at December of 2021 versus January of 2022, look at the difference. So many, in terms of just its relationship to the month before and after it, right? How much of a change did we see from one month to another month? Much more of a change in January of 2022 than in January of 2023. So I don't know if we can conclude an awful lot from that, but clearly it is not as enthusiastic a jump into the new year when comparing it to the previous month of folks increasing the inventory, right? Now let's go ahead and look next at the new listings. And obviously this is a very important number because that's what feeds inventory. And I want to also point out that as we move through this, pay attention to new listings versus homes sold. Because if we sell fewer homes than we list, we are going to be adding to inventory. And so that's a dynamic to be aware of. Now we can see that we have 26% fewer new listings in January of 2023 than we had in January of 2022. That's also a very big drop, but it was a pretty substantial increase from December of 2022. Now, if we take this as a indicator, and in terms of the amount of change between December to January, I think that this year is on par with what happened last year. The rate of growth is going to be interesting to see, but because we had a very dramatic amount of growth in January, February, and March. So in that first quarter of 2022, we had a pretty big jump. We went from December seeing 360 homes being listed all the way up to 1,044 homes listed in a single month. What will we see in the coming months? Well, I don't think we'll see those because remember what happened in March last year. That's when interest rates started to go nuts. And then the months after that started to get negatively affected in terms of some of the other numbers that we're going to see here in terms of homes sold, those types of things. So what's the trend we're going to see between now and March? I think, again, growth, but not as big a change month to month as we saw last year. And I think obviously we will see continuing year-over-year drops when compared to the same month in the previous year. All right, so keeping that in mind, keeping the new listings number in mind, let's take a look at homes sold. The total number of homes sold in January of 2023 is down 49% from the same time last year. Last year we sold 429 homes. This year we sold 217. But take a look at the change between December and January of last year. Last year in December of 2021, we had 606 homes that sold and then 429 that sold in January. So a very big drop between those 2 months. And again, it's more of a winter thing. That's a pretty dramatic drop, but we saw obviously a similar drop this year. But as soon as we get into the new year, we start to see new homes coming onto the marketplace, and then we start to see that affecting homes sold. And we can see we jumped up from January of a low of 429 last year to a high of 844 in April in terms of homes sold. And this is something else to pay attention to. Different markets are different in terms of when they have their peak in terms of homes sold, or what you might want to call the sweet spot of when to list your home. And also keep in mind is the idea that in April of 2022, this represents homes that closed escrow. So in all likelihood, these are homes that had offers made on them in March and possibly even February. So the right time to list your home, the way the market's going right now, the way we're seeing the most activity in terms of buyers going out there doing it is March. So as we head into March in 2023, if you're thinking about selling and you're thinking about doing it at the best possible time, well, in San Jose, the numbers are clearly indicating that a good idea for this would be to get yourself mobilized in March or no later than April to get your home on the market and to get it sold with the greatest amount of attention. So in terms of trends of what we can see in the coming months in January, again, I think we'll see gradual increases all the way through March and April, simply because seasonally that's what tends to happen. I suspect we won't see the homes sold number increasing as much as it did last year, because last year was obviously still the same time when interest rates were super low. But what's interesting to note here is for San Jose, while we did have that 49% decrease in the total number of homes sold, and if we compare this to the total number of new listings, we can see we had 440 new listings, but we had 217 homes sold. So in essence, we added 223 homes to the inventory in the month of January. So not selling as many homes as we're listing and adding a substantial number. In fact, we added more homes to the inventory than we sold. We sold 217, but added 223 to the overall market. It's a crazy out of balance number, but it really indicates where the lion's share of movement in inventory is happening. And it's all pushing simply more towards accumulated inventory, which is great for buyers, but simply means moving forward, sellers are going to have more and more competition. All right. Let's go ahead and talk about San Jose average original list price. If you've watched any of my other market analysis videos, you know this is a number I focus on because we want to get inside the heads of sellers. This is the number that the property was originally listed for. So when a seller sat down in a living room with a real estate agent to sign a listing agreement, this is the price they agreed on, and it was the price that was entered the day it went on the MLS. This does not reflect any increases or decreases to the list price of the home, simply what sellers were expecting at the time. So this is a way for us to gauge seller expectations. When you listed that home, what did you think the home would sell for? How much money did you think you would make? And compared to the same time last year, the number is up 5%, which is actually pretty reasonable. For those of you who've watched my Santa Clara County video, you know that expectations were up by, 12.4% in January. So very much out of whack, but at least the folks in San Jose seem to be more calibrated to the realities of the marketplace, and fewer homes are coming onto the market in San Jose that are blown way out for what the market can currently support. So to get down into the numbers of it, last year in January of 2022, the average original list price was $1,257,606 and $1,318,796 was what homes were being listed for in January of 2023. Okay, so that takes care of average original list price. Now let's go ahead and take a look at actual sales price. So 5% higher expectations in terms of listing prices, but in terms of San Jose sales prices, the average sales price is down 3% when compared to the same time last year. Now, as we looked at original list price in the last slide, we could see that the numbers were really relatively flat in terms of what those numbers were. At least they have been for the last few months. We can also see a downward trend since April of 2022, with some slight variations and fluctuations from August all the way till January. Last year, average sales prices were $1,343,338. January 2023's average sales price was $1,299,041. So clearly, if we have expectations expecting 5% more and sales reflecting 3% less, you can see that there's a little bit of a disconnect, but not as dramatic as we've seen in past months. So I would say this is actually fairly reasonable in terms of discrepancies between list price and what homes are actually selling for. It's a lot tougher to talk someone down by 12% than it is to talk them down by, say, 3, 4, 5%. So I think San Jose is a little bit more calibrated, and I think that'll actually have an effect on future price reductions in the city, and we'll see how that pans out over coming months. But we're also going to discuss, as our last slide here, what price reductions have we seen in San Jose. All right, so move on from average sales price to percent of list price. Now, just as we were trying to look inside the minds of sellers with the original list price slide, this slide is an intention to look into the minds of buyers. The price that is calculated using this in terms of percent of list price is the price the home was listed at the time the property had an offer on it that was accepted, right? So the buyer saw a price and made an offer, and it got accepted, and this is how much below asking price buyers were getting accepted offers. Now, last year, 110.9% was what sellers were getting for their home. So basically almost 11% above asking price on average. That's obviously completely changed. The trend you can see over the last year is downward since March of 2022. Not a huge surprise that March was the day. I think March probably would have been there anyway, but the dramatic drop off as we see once we get to April and May is a reflection of the change in financing, the change in interest rates. And some folks had locked in rates and whatnot. So you can see that it isn't as dramatic in that first month after March. It gets a little bit more severe in May, and then it really takes a nosedive after that. This month, January of 2023, we see that the values are at 99%. So on average, sellers are getting 1% below their list price at the time that it was had an offer accepted. So definitely a softening. That's an 11.9 overall drop between 110.9 to 99. So this indicates obviously softening of the market. We don't have as many buyers. This also tells us we're not getting multiple offers on average in San Jose, and that we are having to see sellers take offers that are below what their asking price is. And as we move on to other numbers relating to, for instance, days on market, we'll see why this is. So again, not a lot of mystery here. In January of 2023, the average days on market was 34. Same time last year, that was 15. So we have a 127% increase in days on market, which obviously paints a very dramatic picture in terms of how long sellers are having to wait. And as I've mentioned in other videos, once we get to that 30-day number, 30 days I think is a sort of a magic number for sellers. Once you can say to yourself, wow, my home's been on the market a month and we haven't had any offers, or we haven't gotten sold, I think that's when things start to soften and when conclusions start to change and when strategies start to get revisited in terms of considering reducing the asking price of a home to be more competitive. Now, I'm going to mention this here. I know this is one I've been beating on for a couple of months because I think it's critical. If you're a seller and you're trying to get your home sold, you need to make this realization as soon as possible, and you need to price correctly today. We no longer live in a market where it's okay to go for a pie-in-the-sky price today and figure, well, I can always reduce the price. Because the reality is, reducing your price to the right price today will make you more money than reducing to the right price in a month. So just keep that in mind. Every day you wait, every day you delay, you're losing money in terms of what you're going to ultimately be able to sell that home for. In terms of trends, not a hard one to pick. We can see there was an interesting dip in December with a few homes selling off, reducing the number to 28. But we've had a steady increase in April of 2022, where each month we've had a pretty steady increase in days on market. I would expect that we will see a flattening or maybe even a slight decline as we hit the first quarter of 2023, simply because more folks start to come out. We start to see more activity. March, April is typically the time. But again, with interest rates being where they are, that will probably be suppressed. But in comparing just month to month, I think we'll see some slowing of the growth of this number and maybe even some flattening. All right, San Jose price reductions. All right, so now we're going to take a look at price reductions for San Jose for January of 2023. Now, what this number represents is the total number of homes on the market in January that had their price reductions. And I'm going to have a little bit of additional data for you to share relating to these numbers. 26.8% of homes in January of 2023 had a price reduction. In December, that number was 38.8%. And I'm not surprised this number's gone down. As we talked about here in terms of original list price and average price of homes and the discrepancy there, the folks in San Jose more and more are starting to get it and are pricing accordingly. So there's far fewer homes that need to adjust their price, because there's that 5% difference, right? So those folks need to adjust a little bit. However, that number is close enough to the reasonable number that you can expect buyers to potentially make offers even on those properties that bring it down to the more reasonable market level. So I think we'll see this as long as the folks in San Jose continue to acknowledge what the market really is like and price themselves accordingly. I think what we will see is this number either staying about the same or even continuing to decline, because as we sell off inventory, as the prices get reduced, that'll all sort of work itself out, and we'll see fewer folks needing to reduce their price in order to get their properties sold. Okay, so now that we've covered price reductions in just the broad, how many of them are there, let's talk a little bit about the numbers specifically relating to this to give you an idea of the scope of what's happening. Now, the average price reduction was $224,077. The median, which means at this price point, half of the homes that had a price reduction were above this amount and half the homes were below this amount, is $92,500. The max, the highest, was $3,799,000, and that's why there is such a disconnect between what the average is and what the median is, because we actually had 3 homes that had that sort of a dramatic drop. It's actually a little bit stunning, but apparently there was, after homes that had only been on the market about 8 days, and I've looked at these listings, one of them is actually has accepted an offer at this point, but their original list prices were $4,899,000, and they got dropped to $1.25 million, $1.2 million, and $1.1 million. So all of them having over $3.6 million price drops. I have no idea what was going on with these first initial prices. None of these homes would have ever reasonably been considered something that would sell at $4 million. And what's interesting is I would expect maybe they just had one digit entered incorrectly on that. But what's odd is it isn't reduced from 4.8 million to 1.8 million. It's reduced from 4.8 million to 1.25 million. So I don't know what the thought process is there, but these are valid numbers, and they're all obviously owned by the same person. These are 3 different addresses that are all on the same street, all with the same agent, same days on market. They each had 56 days on market. So this is weird. I'm not sure what's going on there, but those are the real numbers. And then in terms of the lowest amount dropped was $999, and we had a grand total of 94 homes that had price reductions. That $999 one is a little weird because I cannot see it affecting anything relating to where it would show up. I did a quick, this is a home that's currently listed. It was originally listed for $1,399,999 and is now $1,399,000. So I do not see this changing whose searches it shows up in. I don't see it changing anything. It still is not in contract, and it's been on the market for 131 days. And I did take a quick look at this, and they really do need to do a revisit of this property to, I think, price it effectively. I'm wondering if that price reduction was a mistype. I really don't know, but it should be down a bit more than that, because I don't see that having any effect on how it's getting picked. So you as a seller, if you have a home that's listed with a real estate agent, you need to have these conversations and make sure that they tell you why they think this amount of a reduction will make a difference. And they should have data to back it up. It shouldn't be just a number they pulled out of their head. There's plenty of examples where these price reductions actually worked and in some cases made sense because it dropped them into a different price band where there's more activity. There was one here that dropped from over 560 to under 560, and it sold within just a few days of doing that, probably because there was an additional pool of buyers where 560 was their cutoff. So keep that stuff in mind as you're looking at these things and have these intelligent conversations with your agent so you can price yourself correctly to get your home sold. In terms of the average days on market for these homes, the average days on market among all of these reduced price homes was 89. And these are conversations that need to have to happen far more quickly than after 89 days. But the max is 284. So I feel very sorry for these folks. If they had been priced correctly on day one of this 284-day run, they would be making far more money. And they would have already gotten it. They would have gotten it 280 days ago if they had been priced correctly. So it's a dirty shame because over that time, they have lost tons of money in terms of what the market's willing to bear. Okay. I think that's about covers it, folks. I hope this has been good information for you, and we've given you a little bit of insights that I think will help you anticipate what's happening in the coming market. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. You can always find me at my website at soldbyrobert.com. I've got some great tools there for buyers and sellers and investors. If you're interested in buying or selling, please reach out. I'd be happy to at least throw my hat in the ring of folks you're considering to work with as your trusted real estate professional to reach your real estate goals. Thanks again for listening, everybody. I'll talk to you all next time.